Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the first in a series of live Q&A sessions between Content Live Golf and Women in Golf magazine. Now, I'm joined by my partner in crime in all of this for this series, the person who's going to be bringing the professionalism, the real insight, the knowledge, and the undeniable glamour. It is, of course, Harriet Shephard. Harriet, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. Now, I'm excited to be doing this. I'm really excited to be doing this. And we've got a superstar guest on the show today, Harry. There she is. Charlotte Austwick is with us. Charlotte, how are you?
Hello, I'm good, thanks.
Good. Now, Charlotte, we obviously know each other very, very well from the 2020 Pro Tour. And we've got a number of questions that Harriet and I are going to be asking you very, very shortly. But before we do that, little birdie tells me you've got some breaking news you'd like to share with everybody.
I do. So as of the end of the month, I'm going to be the new assistant professional at Moralton Golf Club in Leeds. So very excited about starting up there. New venture. So yeah.
Cracking golf club up there, isn't it? We were there last year, weren't we? Actually, we were just talking about that. And when do you start there, Charlotte? Are you starting ahead of the golf coming back?
Yeah, exactly, the week before. So just to get my bearings, know what we need to do and stuff like that, and then obviously hopefully ready for golf on the 29th of March.
Fantastic. Now look, Harriet and I have gone out on social media. We've got some people who've got a few questions for us. Before we come to that though, Harriet, I just want to quickly ask you, golf is back on the 29th of March. Good decision, the right decision, or should it be back now?
Well, I think it is the right decision all in all, because I think I wrote a piece a while ago. The first lockdown, I was like, oh no, we shouldn't close golf. But this one, I think it was for the best. We should just, especially because the weather's been so terrible. I mean,
it's given the golf courses a rest.
It has, yeah. It's given the golf courses a rest, and now at least the greenkeepers have got a whole month to get ready and get it all ready. So obviously, we'll all be so excited when it comes back. But I think, the end is in sight now.
Yeah,
I'm not going to complain.
No, we've got a date, haven't we? And whatever we think of it, I know England Golf have been pushing hard and have made clear their disappointment that it's not back now, but it is what it is. And at least we are, we've got just over a month to go and we'll be back.
Exactly.
Right, before we get going, actually, I just want to say I had a comment coming a little bit earlier from Jason Bramwell. Jason, who says his daughter's plans to turn professional at the end of the season. Fantastic to hear. From a lady professional, it's a few steps ahead. So I know Jason's watching. He's very excited to hear from you, Charlotte. And if, Jason, if you're watching this right now, please do just clarify this for me. I think I know who your daughter is, and I think it's Leanne.
I think
Bramwell.
I do.
Yeah, and it must, please tell me it's Leanne Bramwell.
Must be.
Now, I can tell you from having covered a bit of Leanne Bramwell's season last year, my word, she is some player. Charlotte, have you seen much of Leanne?
Do you know, I did, yeah. I saw her when she came up to 2020 Manchester, I think it was. And yeah, I actually played a few holes with her, and sadly I retired partway into the round. But yeah, fantastic golfer. And I've seen some of her other stuff throughout the season. She obviously played on clutch as well, and got out there, and she's done really what I'd have liked to have done when I was back as an amateur, to be honest, and sort of play a little bit more at the higher level, that next step before you actually make that commitment. And I think that's why some of these mini tours are great, and the fact that they're introducing amateurs and allowing amateurs to play alongside the mini tour pros, but also the higher level pros that are coming back and playing on the mini tours, particularly last season when travel to Europe was so restricted and limited. So yeah, great opportunity for her.
Fantastic. And Harriet, you've probably come across Leanne a little bit, haven't you, with your media duties?
I have, yeah, from looking at the some of the events, as Charlotte was saying, that she played in and things. So yeah, amazing. It's great to see like all these young women competing against like tour pros and the best. Yeah, as you say, it must be the best experience and the best insight into what life's going to be like.
It's the best way, definitely. I remember when there wasn't many opportunities when I was still an amateur to play at that next level, and Paul Laurie actually supported a tour up in Scotland for female professionals, and they encouraged the amateurs went up and played on that, and I did, being sort of midway through the country, it wasn't too far, and I actually won one of those events as an amateur against a bunch of girls that were playing LET and stuff at the time, but just brilliant opportunity to play think always trying to push yourself to that next level. And I think one of the biggest things doing it as an amateur, you don't have that sort of pressure that you're now professional, you should be good and you should be competing at that level. You've still got that sort of freedom almost because you're still an amateur. So you're there for the experience rather than necessarily be seen to compete as such. So really good.
Fantastic stuff. Now, yes, we are live, of course, and this is a live Q&A. We do have a number of questions lined up for you, Charlotte, but if anybody watching right now wants to ask Charlotte a question, please do comment below. We are live on the Women in Golf page. We're live on Content Live Golf. We're actually live on the 2020 Pro Tour page as well, so please do have a comment. And the Northern Golfer and Golf North magazine. I must get those
Fantastic.
ones in as well.
Love the Northern people.
Yeah, Yorkshire.
Yes.
Harriet, would you like to start proceedings? We had a few questions come through, haven't we? Would you like to pick one and let's get going?
Of course. So Stephanie Cobalt has written in and said, "Do you still get nervous on the first tee ever?"
Yes. Long and short of it, absolutely. I think I actually got more nervous as I got older and as a pro and stuff compared to when I was younger as an amateur and junior golfer. Didn't faze me at all. I think the whole fear of failure kind of stuff creeps in as you get a bit older. But I think it's the way of learning to cope with that rather than it ever really going away. I think even top level pros, they'll admit that they still get nervous. It sort of shows it means something. And that's what somebody taught me years ago. You get those butterflies, you get nervous because it means something to you. You don't, if you didn't have those feelings, then you're there for the right reasons and things like that. So yeah, definitely still get nervous.
So when does it settle down then, Charlotte? Is it just the first tee nerves, or is it,
I think
like, you tell me. Yeah.
It can fluctuate. So first tee nerves, definitely. The sort of the pre-round, you're keen to get going, I think, a lot of the time. So you just hitting that first drive away and you get a good one away and all of a sudden it all disappears. If you don't hit it quite out the middle, okay, you settle a little, but not completely. But it's like if you're playing well, you want to finish the round, so then it kind of comes into it again there. You want to do well, you want to finish it off. If you've been playing really well, you're obviously in a better rhythm by towards the end of the round. But if you've potentially got a win on the line, the nerves sort of kick in again. I think mid-round is probably the easier. But then towards the end, if it's going to count for something, then certainly it can creep in there as well.
Fantastic stuff. We've had another comment. And just by the way, Jason Bramwell has commented and just confirmed, yes, it is the camera. Great. That's spared a few blushes there.
Yeah.
Another question for you, and quite a very good question. That's from Tracy Carvell. Now, as we know, we've been in lockdown. Mm-hmm. Elite sport has been able to continue, hasn't it? Does that mean, Charlotte, are you classed as elite then? Have you been able to practice at a golf course as a pro golfer during lockdown?
I was classed, yeah, I would have been able to. The course that I've actually been at has been shut for basically the whole of January. It was probably closed for because of how wet it's been. Like up in York, we've had so much rain through January. Personally, it didn't sit right with me when we went into lockdown with COVID, with all the restrictions in place. It just didn't sit right. As my sort of current situation is that I'm more going to be working in the golf industry. I will still be playing, but not full-time competitively. That kind of changed my opinion on it. If I was going out and competing in the LET and I was full-time, then I would have pushed to have been able to practice somewhere. But it just hasn't sat right with me. So I just never really bothered and didn't really know how long it was going to go on for. I'm definitely keen to get back out now. It's been long enough, but personally I haven't. I've got friends that have been able to sort of get to their facilities privately and things like that, but to me it's just like, yeah, just didn't sit well. We're in the middle of a pandemic, so like particularly through January I felt it was the right thing to shut everything down and limit the damage, I suppose. I
like that kind of a moral decision, a bit like you. I can't wait to get to the first tee at San Martin's and hit a 10 at the first par 4. Right, let's carry on. Harriet, what else have we got?
So Amanda Knight has asked, what was it like playing in the mixed gender fields last summer, and how different is it to playing on the Access Series and when it's all just women?
Yeah, it's a little bit different, but everyone's there for the right reason. Like, everyone wants to play golf. And we said this last year. I remember actually Ian asked me something very similar at the first event at Crossland Heath. And it was just like, especially last year, we had the storms, didn't we, which pushed the season back before COVID hit. And everyone just wanted to play. And and everyone just wanted to play and were keen to play. And I think I felt very comfortable in the environment anyway, because I knew quite a lot of the lads from growing up locally and things like that. And like Chris and Adam are friends of mine. So I felt very at ease. Some other girls maybe didn't feel quite in the same way. I think the way that they've organised the tees and things like that to make it as fair as possible for us to compete, because I've played enough golf with like Adam and Chris who do the 2020 tour, and they like I'm a good golfer with them, but I can't compete against them off the back tees. It just isn't possible. They hit it too far past me to, I'm then hitting a 4-iron where they're able to hit an 8-iron into the greens, or a 9-iron pitching wedge. So the fact that they've learned and they've changed their policy a little bit more this year, to realise and to allow the girls to properly compete is massive. The lads they're all good lads as well, to be honest. So they don't feel sort of make you feel any worse being the only girl there or one of very few girls there. They enjoy to see it as well, and I think it's good that we're able to compete, and especially in the local events. I mean, when I was a junior, so the York Union, that's where I grew up in, and I won the York Union Junior Championships back in, had been 17, 18, and I was the first girl to ever win it. And I think I'm still the only girl to ever win it, but it's a field of boys, really. And I was just the only girl there. And so I kind of used to it in that way. It was nice to move on to the ladies and the girl stuff. But it's always been there. You've always, when you're an elite girl golfer and you're like the only one in the golf club that's the elite girl. So you just kind of get into, you always play with the lads, just crack on with it, really.
It's a nice atmosphere, isn't it, on 2020? Like it was our first year sort of broadcasting it, but and although it was brand new for 2020, it was almost just been that way for years, if you know what I mean. Like, it's just acceptance, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, I think that is the thing. Golf, the gender thing, everything else, age, it doesn't matter. You when you get out on the golf course, everybody's the same, really. As long as I think that's why the handicap system is so good, because, and obviously the changes, it'll be interesting with the world handicap system, how it goes forward, but it's made it an equal playing ground, and the ladies' tees and things like that, it allows everybody to play. So it's great.
We did have a female winner on the 2020 Pro Tour last year.
Ellie Gibbons, yeah. Fantastic.
So, happy days. I think we might have touched on this next question actually already, but we'll quickly go over it again. Stacey Dennis has asked, what's the best pathway for young girls getting into golf and looking to make it professional one day? And does it cost a lot of money? I know we sort of touched on this earlier. I suppose it's a fair question, isn't it?
So my
get the receipts out, Charlotte. Get the receipts out, and
yeah, you don't want to see them. When I was still an amateur, my dad totaled it up one year, and my mum told him to never do that again, like, because it's frightening, even as an amateur, and he's just traveling around the UK. It's expensive. Travel is expensive. We used to look for the Travelodge and Premier Inn deals, when they do the flash deals, and know the calendar and get them booked when at the cheapest rate we could, so that we had the accommodation lined up. And like, Dad was in the fire service, and he was fortunate to get, as a manager, he was able to get flexi leave and stuff. So his my summer holiday was us going and playing golf tournaments when I was a kid. So thankfully he was able to get that time off to take me. But yeah, very expensive. And that's why sort of these mini tours and stuff are a great way to move up the progression ladder. So I went from amateur, I was in the Yorkshire Junior Girls, never broke into the England setup, but I had training through elite Yorkshire level and into the ladies. I went to York University, so I didn't go to the States, but there's a lot of success from girls that have been to the States to college. Personally, it wasn't for me, so I actually had a talented athlete scholarship and a scholarship through York University, which allowed me to play golf and continue my golf and performance training. So I got physio support, strength and conditioning support whilst I was at university. But I had to do it all myself. That was the difference, I think, with like the girls that go to America and some of the other universities in the UK. And then I played a couple of years as an amateur, but I've always worked part-time since graduating uni. I've always had a part-time job that's been flexible enough for me to go and play golf and come back and get some shifts in and stuff, whether bar work, shop work, all that kind of stuff. And I turned pro at the end of 2015 at the LET Access event at Stoke-by-Nayland. So I qualified through the England Order of Merit and got into that tournament. And I decided that I wanted to turn professional. I got my degree and I wanted to make that next step and see where things went. But when I turned pro, I then went to tour school, didn't do well at all the first year round. Nerves more than anything. I'm now a pro golfer and it's still like everything crashed down beside me. But that first year, I hadn't really got anywhere to play. So LET Access events were tough to get in because so many more girls were playing. So I ended up playing like mini tour golf in Spain and Sweden, which you can imagine is just a fortune. Like, so you're playing mini tour golf and the prize funds are next to nothing. But the only way to compete at that level, because at the time I wasn't obviously affiliated with the PGA or anything, so there was no sort of mini events to play in. And that's why it's so brilliant. And like, I'm so supportive of the 2020 and stuff and Clutch down south and obviously the Rose Lady series last year. But the mini tours in the UK and having those opportunities for women is massive because it's that travel and everything else. So the guys that come through Europro, for example, they've gone to that next step, but they've not had to leave the country. Whereas you start traveling abroad and you start traveling to Europe, like the costs just rack up. It's scary. It really is scary. But I have been fortunate over the years. Like I went down to South Africa a couple of years ago and I spent 8.5 weeks down there. And obviously it's a lot cheaper for us to do from the UK anyway with the exchange rate. But they've got a fantastic sort of women's setup of the Sunshine Tour and they have like 8 events in 8 or 9 weeks. And I spent £150 on accommodation in those 8.5 weeks because I was hosted. I was hosted everywhere. So host families in certain countries, it's a really big thing. And so like people from the golf club and friends that I've got, they hosted us for most of the time we were there, which massive cost. Like, so it helped massively and allowed me to go and do it. But yeah, very expensive. Very expensive.
I don't think there's any sport, is there really, that if you're trying to make it as a pro that's cheap though, is there really? You know,
no,
like,
not at all.
Travel's travel. You
exactly.
know, if you want to make it and you have to travel into Europe, you know, you're not going to get much change. So
not at all. I think the thing is, you've got to want it yourself. Like, obviously, there's a lot of sacrifice, massive sacrifice. Like my parents and stuff, they've sacrificed a lot over the years to support me and do my golf. And like I say, I've always worked part time since graduating and stuff to try and support it somewhat. It doesn't really touch it, and I haven't sort of had any sponsorship as I've been playing professionally. I've had little bits of money here and there, but nothing really. And that's fair enough. And it's very hard in the industry, like with business and everything else after the recession and things like that. A lot of businesses changed. Like years and years ago, you get manufacturers handing out balls, gloves, shoes, clubs left, right and centre, and it just doesn't exist now. It's just not around anymore. So yes,
I can't even get a hat, Charlotte, these days.
You need one for that hair as well, don't you, really?
Yeah, all right. Set that one up. Tease that one right up for you.
You did.
No thirsty nerves there. Right, let's move on. I think we've got a couple more crackers, Harriet, haven't we, coming up?
Yeah. So this one from Natalie Sodden sort of leads on from what you were saying. Like, do you know what's happening with the LET Access this year? Have you?
We've had a draft schedule through, yeah. So there's about, I think, 14 events on it. So it looks promising. Personally, now with my new job and stuff, I won't be able to get out and travel, especially with restrictions still in place. So I know there's some element of being an elite sports person and not having to quarantine and things like that. But yeah, it just still makes it difficult. If you're doing it full time, then you obviously have that flexibility. But it looks promising. Yeah, Sweden, Spain, the usual sort of events, Switzerland, France. They've pushed it back, so it won't start until the end of May, which I think was a really smart move, just to allow things to start rolling again. But yeah, it does. It looks solid through the summer, which will be really positive. So yeah, good.
Great. And obviously the LET's full schedule is looking amazing this year.
It does,
as well.
yeah. It looks unreal. I mean, the new events that they announced with Saudi, the team events that have been introduced as well this year. It's amazing the investment that certain places and certain companies can give. It's brilliant. That's what it needs. That's what it really needs. It needs some backing. And in the last few years, it's sort of been really challenging times for the LET. But hopefully now it's, especially with the partnership with the LPGA and things, it's going to turn it around, hopefully for the better, and the future proofing it, the longevity of it. Because if you don't have that, then it falls all the way back down to the grassroots of golf, doesn't it? Like, if there's no sort of pathway for girls to progress to the higher level or highest level in Europe, let alone America, it's tough. There's no passion to really strive on, and it'd be a shame if we did lose that. So hopefully it's stabilized it for the future.
Definitely.
I think they just need some decent live streaming for the ladies European.
Yeah. We'll get you up, Ian.
Have contacted them. Still waiting to hear. Right. Charlotte, actually, that kind of leads me on to something. Talking about, you've taken this job at Moralton. You are a professional golfer.
Yep.
What, 18? So you've got plenty of time.
Absolutely.
Where you go with your professional game? Is it still, you still targeting the European Tour?
So my routes kind of changed a bit really in the last year. So this time last year we got back from tour school. Obviously the pandemic was just about to begin. We didn't really know what things were going to happen. So I ended up getting a job at Pike Hills, where I was a junior and grew up. I got offered a sort of part-time casual job there, which helped me through the summer. And then I had a few conversations, and somebody had said, have I thought about my PGA? And it's something that I'd brushed off years ago. No, I'm not interested. I'm fine. I've got my degree. I'm not interested in doing the PGA. Anyway, that changed. So I signed up to the PGA and I started my training in October. And I'm really pleased I have. I mean, it's given me something to focus on in the last 6 months or however long. And I've needed that. Like, I'd have found this lockdown really, really tough if I hadn't had something to make my brain work. So I'd started at Pike Hills, and but obviously the job that I had there was slightly different to now what I'm going to have at Moralton. I made a bit of a big step really for me. It sort of, it's changed my route. I still want to play. I'm still going to play, and the Moralton have been really supportive of that. Excuse me. Obviously, it's going to be a bit different because obviously summer in golf clubs, it's busy, a lot busier. So there's like events in Spain back end of the season and things like that I might be able to get to. But I'll obviously have all the PGA tournaments to play, regionally, women's PGA across the UK and things like that. So I have to play as part of my qualification anyway. But yeah, still keen on playing. It's just for the next 2 years or so while I'm doing my training particularly, it's going to obviously sideline a little, but I'll still be practicing. And yeah, I'd like to still compete on the LET Access and things like that. And the LET, hopefully, in another few years, it's just gonna slightly take the back seat at the moment. But actually, I'm looking forward to the fact that I'm gonna have even more events closer to home, less expense, and just keep my game ticking over that way. And then, like I say, when I've not got the commitment as such, the study side of things, it'll be a lot easier in another couple of years. So yeah, COVID's kind of diverted my route a little bit, I think in a good way. I'm looking forward to it, but obviously change is change. It's different. So yeah, it'll be good.
Fantastic. We actually starting with Harriet, Charlotte. So let's have some of those, shall we?
Go for it.
But Harriet, do you want to take it away? Because I think you put a few crackers in there too.
Yes. So obviously we've touched on these things before, but the Rose Series happened last year, and like backed by Justin Rose, got loads of attention on the women's game, and then LET series this year and other things last year. Do you think women's golf has grown a lot in the last year? And do you think that will continue, hopefully?
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's been interesting. I think what Justin did last year, I can't remember the girl who was putting the event on to start with anyway. Can't remember her name down south.
Liz Young.
That's it, yeah, Liz.
Yeah.
So obviously she had this idea to start it off and just as get girls back, like get the LET girls back playing before the year sort of properly began again. And I think it's great. I think it's a great idea and things. And unfortunately, I don't think the Rose Lady Series is going to happen this year now. But I think as awful as COVID's been and as the impact that it's had on a lot of things, I think it helped the LET because I think it sort of stalled it a little bit. So it actually allowed them to get a few more things in place. And also like the Rose Lady Series, fantastic. And the coverage that they did of that and getting it on Sky and the media around it, it's great for girls golf, really. And like I say, it's inspirational for the younger girls that aspire to be the next best. And I think it's really important, and hopefully it does sustain and it keeps going in the right direction. And I think like the mini tours and stuff, introducing that, involving girls from the beginning, like 2020 have done with setting up the tour and having girls in it from the start, is massive. And you're not like an afterthought. As I think, no disrespect to the tours that have been before and the mini tours and stuff, it's always been for the guys. And then because I approached the subject with one of the tours and whether I could play, and he said, yeah, of course you can play. But he didn't really know then what he needed to do to allow me to play and actually compete and not just be making up the numbers. So I think what the guys are doing now and moving forward, I think it's going to be really positive. And like I say, it helps that pathway.
Yeah. And at sort of club level as well, do you think, what do you think needs to change to get more girls and women playing golf just for fun? Do you think it's still a bit unwelcoming sometimes if there's not many women there?
I think some clubs are. I really don't know. I don't know, because I think so many different places have tried different initiatives and things, and it maybe sparks it up for so long and then it dwindles. And to be fair, the ladies section at Pike Hills was growing nicely, and there's a good bunch of ladies, and there's like they've done this sort of ladies get into golf over the last few years, and some of the ladies have then kept the memberships and stuff, which is great, and they've built then little groups and stuff. But there's still the ladies in a golf club who like things the way that it's always been. Yeah, I did that.
Yeah.
But you know, it's tradition. Like golf clubs live on tradition, and it's really hard to change that. Like, especially when you've still got the memberships in that have been there for 50 years. Like, how do you get them to change and go with the times? You know, it's like the whole jeans in the golf club and jeans in the clubhouse fiasco. Like, if somebody's smartly dressed, then they're smartly dressed, they should be allowed in there. It shouldn't matter what those smartly dressed clothing is. Just, you know, but the problem is like golf clubs live on the history, and I've known from a lot of golf clubs I've been to, it's really tough to change that. As much as anyone's got the will in the world, and obviously it's expensive as well being part of a golf club. The membership fees it's not cheap. And so and whether, you know, families are being brought up and things like that, you've got young family, to get younger women involved, like to then have only the weekends that are available to them. Saturdays typically are competition days at a golf club, and to try and get a tee time, especially in the last year, it's been horrendous to try and get a tee time. So to try and have a new woman golfer come down to the golf club, or a few, and to try and want a 4-ball on a Saturday afternoon, it's not exactly the most welcoming environment when you've got 40 odd blokes wanting to play the medal, and it's the only time that they can play as well. So it's tough, and hopefully things will move forward. And like obviously what you guys are doing with women in golf and stuff, like trying to bring it younger and bring those next ladies through. I mean, I went on Tallaton Ladies Pro-Am a couple of years ago. Unfortunately, with COVID, it's been cancelled last year, and this year doesn't look great, unfortunately. But there's like a massive bunch of how many is there? About 80 ladies, and all ages, like all different teams and stuff like that from all over the UK. And it's such a great event, but everyone's spread out, and it's like with me and my friends, we're all spread out across the country. So together, there's quite a lot of us. But when you put one in Southampton and over in Kent, over in Cheshire, and me in Yorkshire, and all of a sudden we're all spread out, and so united, we could have a really powerful sort of thing to try and increase the sort of participation of women. But to get like split across the country, it makes it quite challenging. So,
if I'm honest, in a good way, we're doing it sport. It comes from the top down.
Yeah.
The ladies schedule, a bumper schedule, fantastic schedule. Most of them, I know, I live streaming on YouTube, so you can watch them now before, and that's what we need. We need it at the top end to inspire. We want young girls to be watching the Ladies European Tour.
Definitely.
That's what I want to be doing. Then then they'll be going to the local clubs, and I think clubs want to do everything they can. It's not always easy. Yes, they're a business at the end of the day. But I think most clubs are trying to do what they can within reason without upsetting and out, without getting rid of tradition, which is, but I think we are on an upward curve in a really positive way.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's like when I grew up, there was the Yorkshire Girls set up already in place and things, and I went for a trial and I got in, and there was quite a lot of us to start out, but it's dwindled over the years. I mean, that original group that I had, we're spread out all over Yorkshire, so there can be a good couple of hours between people. But I think I was probably the last one standing when we got to 17, 18 years old. Like, just life happens, it's not, I think it's becoming more of a cool thing now than it used to be. But I remember at school, like weekends, I'd be playing golf every weekend, and the friends that I had at school were like, "You have to play golf? Like, you don't do anything else on a weekend?" And they'd just be hanging around the park, and I'm like, "Well, I'm off to play golf." Yeah, that was my life growing up. But I think social media is a massive influence as well, and it can have a positive and a negative impact. The whole. There's a lot gone on in the media recently. It's like only recently with Michelle Wee and things like that. And I think that can be quite damaging for women in golf as well. Like, why can't we just be seen as a golfer? You don't, what you wear and all that kind of business. It shouldn't have such an impact that it does. And I think that's quite sad, and that can impact on the women's game. But yeah, that's me sidetracking.
Well, like that, isn't it? When we, it's cool, whether you're male or female, if you can get back into a hole 400 yards away,
exactly.
It doesn't matter.
That's it. Yeah, definitely.
And I think the tradition that, like you're saying, that women play on a Tuesday or they play in the week needs to go, because then it's automatically excluding women who have jobs, which is like
massive.
Most people.
I remember I was at Leeds Golf Club at the time, and I was only about 13, and it was half-term week, and I hadn't signed the book because I was an alternative medal player, so I played my medals on a Sunday rather than the Tuesday. But because I hadn't signed this particular book the week before to say that I wanted to play the medal on the Tuesday that week, I wasn't allowed to play in the competition. And that day I had, I think it was 52 Stableford points off 35 handicap, and they wouldn't cut me. Like, they wouldn't cut my handicap for it. And it's like, things like that just shouldn't happen.
Crazy. No.
I mean, that was a while ago. But yeah, it's like that as an example. It's just like, it's just archaic in the way, and it just doesn't help. Just doesn't help, does it?
No.
Right, Charlotte, you've got to be awake too, haven't you? Because you've got
tuition.
Tuition. I've got one final question for you, actually. Are we going to see you with us again on the 2020 Pride Tour? Here we are, you and me looking...
That's not the best picture of me. was that Crossland Heath? That was our first meeting, wasn't it?
Say you look like it, I'm just like...
Yeah, definitely. I'll hopefully be around some of the events in the summer, definitely. May even peg it up in a few.
That's
Well, Once I've dusted the rust off, anyway.
So much for your time, Stephen.
No problem at all.
As well, it's been a real treat, hasn't it? We're actually going to do a few more of these, aren't we, Harriet? I think we're going to...
Absolutely, yeah. I think that's been great. Thank you so much for joining us, Charlotte. That's good.
No problem at all.
Started on a high, definitely.
Yeah, no pressure to the ones to follow.
Yeah, exactly.
Be watching it. Make sure you go check out Women in Golf as well. Harriet, you're the big boss now. There should we say that the main editor now, the chief. Do go check it out.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it covers absolutely everything golf. Right, that's it, Charlotte. Another thing to do. See. And until next week, thank you very much. Have a great week. And nobody can play golf at the minute, but
keep busy. Cheers, guys. Thank you
so much. Bye.